Welcome to Walpole Five-0. I'm Chief John Carmichael. Today is February 7th, 2017. Before we get into the discussion today, you got to go mention the Patriots. I mean, what an unbelievable win that they had over the weekend. Hopefully you stayed up and you watched the whole thing and you weren't one of those people that went home and went to bed and missed out what the outcome was. But, geez, you got to give it to the Patriots. 5 Super Bowl wins. Just absolutely amazing game. So hopefully you watched it. Speaking of the Patriots, we did have some deployments from the Walpole Police Department. As a result of the Super Bowl, our Cobra unit, which is the Boston Police bicycle unit, helped and requested some of our officers to help them out after the Super Bowl on Sunday, as well as a couple of our SWAT officers. So we had Officer Thayer, Officer Crown, Officer Lagoa in there to help out with Boston PD, and I know they had a good time. You know, everybody looked like they were pretty well behaved in Boston after the Super Bowl, so we appreciate those guys going in and helping out. Police promotional exam. Today, the Walpole Police Department had a promotional exam for sergeant and lieutenant. We had about 14 officers take the sergeant test and another 4 take the lieutenant test. So I want to wish them the best of luck. This is an assessment center, so today they did a written exam component. And then tomorrow and the day after, they're going to do different assessments where they're going to be measured on knowledge, skills, ability, that type of thing. And there'll be these assessors in there that are going to basically assess the officers and evaluate how they do and they grade them. And that will be our promotional exam that will be used for future promotion. So I wish all the officers the best of luck. I know they've been working very hard, studying and putting all their time in to get ready for this. So wish all you guys the best of luck. Shooting, we had a shooting at the South Shore Mall. Our Metro SWAT officers, Lagoa and Crown, responded down there. The shooting happened inside of the mall, and Braintree PD went in there, and basically they went into a lockdown mode. So everybody basically sheltered in place after the shooting had taken place, and they locked down. Some people fled. You know, as I've mentioned before, here in Walpole, we teach lock, leave, live. So you either lock down, you leave, and if that's you know you have an escape route, you leave, you get out of there, and you live, which means sometimes in these situations that people may have to fight back. In this situation, after the shooting, the individual discarded the gun and fled the scene. He was ultimately arrested. I think within 24 hours in Quincy, and I just want to thank our Metro SWAT officers for going down there. It's a great experience for them, and I think Paul Shastany, the chief down there in Braintree, did a great job on managing that scene down there. So thank you to those guys for going out. Chamber of Commerce meeting. Harry Mercedes invited me to speak in front of the Chamber of Commerce. Myself, along with Chief Bailey and Jim Johnson, our town administrator, selectmen were there, and we were able to come in and we had the opportunity to speak to our business partners about what each department does and you know what we do now and what we hope to do in the future. And I just want to thank Harry for inviting us out and giving us the opportunity to speak on that. As I mentioned before on Walpole Five-0, what I try and do is a lot of times when people know of this program, they'll ask me questions that I can now bring up and explain to them in this forum. So we have a question came up about our emergency notification systems, and we use 2 in Walpole. So if there's a critical incident, or it might even be school canceled or something like that, but most likely a critical incident where we need to notify the community immediately that there could be a situation going on that we want you to know about. We have 2 different systems. The first one is a Code Red Rapid Alert system. This one is maintained by Sheriff Bellatti's office, and it's on the sheriff's website. And you can get notifications through email, through voice, through text, that type of thing, on your cell phone, and you will get these notifications in the event that a serious situation unfolds here in Walpole. And basically, everybody who has a landline, that will automatically happen. But if you have a cell phone or another device that you want to receive those notifications, you have to go in and update that on the website. So in order to do the Code Red, you go onto Sheriff Bellatti's website, and you'll see the Code Red alert system on there, and you click on that and you can fill out the form. The other system we use is SwiftReach, SwiftReach 911. It is maintained by the town of Walpole. It's on the town of Walpole website. And should a situation occur, we're going to likely use one of those. Now, the police department most often uses the code red because it's free to us. There's no cost. The sheriff offers that program to us, and there's no cost. And the Swift Reach program is more expensive. And so we typically will use that program. Now, the same thing applies for Swift Reach. If you want to get on that and you want to have a cell phone put on there, you just simply go onto the Town of Walpole website and you fill out the form, and you can do that and update your phone. So, this past week, I was asked by the Boston Globe to answer a question on the thought of legislation that would expunge past marijuana convictions prior to the legalization of marijuana. As you can imagine, I'm adamantly opposed to that. And what I want to mention is that the issue with marijuana, when we decriminalized it in 2008, essentially what we did is we got rid of the early onset intervention for our youth. What a lot of people don't realize is that the vast majority of drug treatment episodes where people follow a trajectory into treatment is done through the criminal justice system, the vast majority of them. And when you take away that mechanism, what happens is a lot of people don't get that early intervention. That's especially our adolescents. They don't get that intervention when they've already started using, they get caught with marijuana, and they're not given that opportunity to get into treatment because now we just kind of turned a blind eye to it, and that's very unfortunate. So that's the first issue. The other thing is the proponents of this are acting again as if the marijuana laws were so punitive, that people were in jail, that you establish a record, you can't get into college, you can't get housing, you can't get jobs, and it's not the case. I mean, we've had presidents of the United States that have admittedly been caught with marijuana and that type of thing, and they're the president of the United States. So you can get jobs. It never ruined anybody from getting a job, unless it was a job like this. It was a law enforcement job or something where, that there's other mechanisms that are in place that, deem you unqualified for that position. But, most police officers I know in this profession chose just not to do it, and then that way you were covered. But, so that's not an excuse. But, nobody is in jail for marijuana. Nobody's not gotten into college because of it. And essentially, marijuana charges were always incidental to something else. They were secondary to another crime. So, the person might have been arrested for shoplifting, or they had a revoked driver's license, or they were operating a stolen car. And the police arrest them, and as they're searching them, they find marijuana. So it's most of the time incidental to something else. It's not as if what you see today, now people smoking marijuana on the street corner, and the police walking up and arresting them just for that charge. So it's just not the way that it happened. The other issue is that people that proceed in the criminal justice system, because it's progressive, are usually because of probation violations, because they were charged with multiple crimes, because they took a plea deal, because they're actually a drug dealer who was caught with this marijuana and dealing marijuana, but they pled down to the charge of possession. Now, since 1975 in Massachusetts, first-time convictions automatically had probation, the record was automatically sealed, and the disposition was always dismissed. Since 1975, we've been doing that. Judges routinely also do this for cases that are dismissed and not guilty. They vanish. Okay, so when people do see these charges on somebody's record, it's later on. It's because it's had so many bites at the apple that now they have a conviction, or they violated probation, or they did multiple crimes. And that's the best I can explain it. And so for those reasons, I'm against it. Massachusetts already has a system in place to expunge records. They do so judiciously, and they do so by looking at the underlying factors and on a case-by-case basis. And that's the way we should do it. Crashes. People have asked me about motor vehicle crashes, where the worst intersections are. The worst intersections this past year in 2016 was Route 1 and 27, or Route 1 and High Plains Street. We had the most crashes there. We had about 40 crashes there in the past 2 years. And the other location was Washington Street at Poly, which we had about 16 or 17 crashes there, which is significantly high for a secondary roadway, Washington Street at Poly Lane and Short Street, if you know that. Those are rough intersections, and we ask that you please use extra caution knowing this information that they are bad intersections. I also have mentioned in the past about hit and runs. Of the 630 crashes that we had in 2016, 37 of them were hit and runs, where the person left the scene, they didn't make themselves known, and they fled. There was 285 with no injury. There was 75 accidents that had injury. There was 204 that we consider minor crashes. 14 are just in the other category. And we had 9 that resulted in an OUI, and 6 where pedestrians were struck. And that's actually low. We typically, in Walpole, we will average about 10 pedestrian crashes per year. So 6 is below where we usually are. And so, just with this information, I hope that, you take this information and you use more caution when you're at these intersections. And there are a lot of others that are right kind of behind these intersections. Route 1 and Coney Street is obviously a bad one. Bullard Street and Main Street, or Bullard or Willett Street and Main Street is a rough location. North Street and Main Street is another one. Main Street and Norfolk Street. So we do have a lot of other ones that are not too far behind our worst, but those are some of the other bad locations that we have. So getting into the log today, on the 31st of January, we had a crash. This happened at 400 High Street, and this was the result of a vehicle that slid in the snow and into a tree, and thankfully nobody was injured in that crash. Criminal harassment, we had a report of a female who was saying that she was being threatened and criminally harassed by another individual via cell phone. I think I may have brought this up before, but now we have a law in Massachusetts which is criminal harassment, and if people are harassed by the same individual more than 3 times, so up to 3 times, and these are documented incidents that you've notified the police that this has happened, you can apply for what's called a harassment prevention order. And it's typically done the same way as a restraining order. A 209A restraining order would be done through the court. The police department can help you do that. The individual would be served with the harassment prevention order, and if they violate that order, they could be subject to arrest. So it's almost the same as a restraining order, and something that people should know about if they continuously being harassed by somebody. Okay, an OUI arrest. Caller reported that there was a vehicle in front of their home. This was up on Old Post Road. Officer Giblin was the first officer on scene. He discovered that there was an individual from Rhode Island. She was passed out at the wheel, and her foot was still on the brake, and the vehicle was in drive when he arrived. So that is not a good outcome. This individual was so intoxicated that she pulled off of the main road, drove up Old Post Road, basically passed out the wheel, left the car in drive, and with her foot on the brake. In addition to being arrested for OUI liquor, she was also in possession of Ritalin, which is a Class B substance. So she was also additionally charged with possession of Class B. Ritalin is amphetamine, it's a stimulant. Typically it's used as an antidepressant type of drug. Many times for adolescents is an antidepressant type of drug. And it's basically speed, it's an upper. And she was in possession of this as well, and likely under the influence of this as well. So she was arrested for that. Warrant arrest, we did a quick warrant sweep. Officer Maganello and Foley went to a location and located a female who had 4 active default warrants out of Rentham District Court. And as I've mentioned, default warrants are typically for somebody that fails to appear for other mandatory court appearances, and they didn't show up, and then therefore a warrant issued. Protective custody, we got a call from a restaurant bar on Route 1. They reported that there was an intoxicated person inside of the bar located inside the restaurant. And this person was so intoxicated that she was eating off of other people's plates. Officers responded. They placed this individual into protective custody, and upon booking, the officers determined that she was even more intoxicated than they had felt as they were on scene, and as a result, we took that individual to the hospital to be detoxed and to seek medical treatment. And I'm glad the officers did that, and they were able to make that determination. So on February 4th, we had a trespassing incident. This was Officer Persicanti and Vinciguerra. They responded to the high school after a custodian heard people up on the roof. The custodian stated that it sounded like a herd of buffalo up there. And so the officers, they responded, and they located 3 individuals that were up on the roof. They were not charged, or they were not set up for hearings for trespassing, but the parents were notified. And you know, as I mentioned a lot of times before, the parents, they can sometimes deal with the situation a lot better than our courts can, and hopefully that's what happened. Brush fire, Route 1 southbound by Moose Hill Road. The Walpole Fire Department and Walpole Police responded to a brush fire at that location on February 4th. And ironically, what happened is Sharon also had a fire that night, and they had seen an individual in a blue mechanic's jumpsuit that was seen in that area of the fire. We did not find anything that was suspicious at this scene. However, we did take note of the prior fire that occurred in Sharon in case this is something that continues. But so far, nothing has panned out with that as of yet. But Walpole Fire Department went up there, did a great job, and put that fire out pretty quickly. So thank you to them. Assault. Officer Doherty responded to Route 1 in Norwood. He went there to speak to a victim of a past assault which occurred on Route 1. Excuse me. So Officer Doherty determined that the assault was a verbal argument that occurred in the parking lot up on Route 1, and spoke to both individuals, and basically peace was restored. So compliance check. As a result of several incidents we've had at Eastern Pearl on Route 1, we've had several incidents where there's been underage drinking, when people have drank there and had a subsequent OUI as a result. We've decided to do more compliance checks. We do compliance checks throughout the year in Walpole, where we send undercover officers in there just to make sure that everybody is not serving alcohol to any minors or anything. And because we've had so many problems up there, we've had officers going to do extra compliance checks there for them. And at this certain time, there was everybody in the bar was found to be legal. A confused person, a senior citizen, was discovered hitchhiking on Main Street. There was a Good Samaritan that stopped and helped that person out. They brought them here to the police station, and during their interaction with this person, they found out that they couldn't remember where they lived. As a result, Elder Services was contacted, and we were able to notify family members and get this person some help and give them some elder services as well. Now, the reason why I put this call in there is because we have a program done through Sheriff Bellatti's office as well. Sheriff Bellotti does a lot of good things for the county, but it's called Project Lifesaver. And Project Lifesaver is a system that they have a retrieval system that's done through LoJack. It's like they call it Safety Net, and it's to help protect people that have Alzheimer's disease, autism, or any other afflictions where the person may suffer from situations where they wander away. And we have here at the police station, if you have a family member that's like that, we do keep a book where we have pictures of the people and all of their pedigree information in the event that this person walks away or they wander, and we are able to know who that person is so we can quickly deploy and try and locate them. But Project Lifesaver, there's a wristband that the person wears, and in the event that this person wanders away and they become lost, we can deploy the sheriff's office who can come out with the tracker, and we can try and track that person as to where they are if they just walk away from the neighborhood. Obviously, if they're in a vehicle and they're traveling around the state somewhere, that you can't really use that system there. But if it is confined to a certain area, we're able to bring this out, and it's a very good program. And if you know somebody that has Alzheimer's disease or autism or any of those afflictions, you can call 781-751-3474. That's the sheriff's office, and you can sign up there with that. And it's, as I mentioned, very good program. Needle, Officer Bethany responded to a location on Main Street to remove needles, as it was in the bathroom of this location. Officer Bethany responded and disposed of those needles. And as I mentioned before, we have sharps containers here at the station. Robin Chappelle has them at the health department, and we understand the drug problem. I know there's a lot of people out there that have these addictions, but don't leave your needles behind, because those can be subjected to our youth or people, and just victimize somebody else unnecessarily. And getting rid of the syringes is in the right way is very important. Motor vehicle crash. This occurred on Stone Street, right up the street from the police station. It was a car versus pole, and then a garage, and then a tree. And this was a 16-year-old driver that was operating the motor vehicle and struck the pole first, and then into the garage, which caused structural damage, and then into a tree. And again, no injuries in this crash. We're very thankful. I'm very happy that the 16-year-old driver, obviously inexperienced, didn't get hurt in this crash. And when I saw the photographs of this crash, I was very surprised and amazed that there wasn't any significant injuries. So we're very happy that the driver is okay. Canine sweep. We did a canine sweep under the direction of Longview Farm, because they've had some incidents down there. Detective Hazeldine and Detective Sullivan did a great job coordinating with Longview, canine officers in the area out of our Metro unit, and Patrolman Crown and Patrolman Lagoa also assisted with this sweep. And this was an outside exterior sweep of the area because of some recent incidents that had involved marijuana. And as a result, we did the sweep for them and found nothing. So that was good. It's the only time I think that it's good when we find nothing, but I'm happy that we didn't. Assault and battery. Officer Haber took a report. This also happened at Longview, but in an assault and battery that took place where the person broke their hand, and the victim had a broken hand as a result of what this individual did to them. And we are now involved in a follow-up investigation, and we have spoken with the suspect, and that will be something that there could be the likelihood of charges for assault and battery taking place. In arrest, Officer Haber arrested an individual from Attleboro. This was following a motor vehicle stop where Officer Haber learned that the vehicle that was being operated on had revoked registration because of lack of insurance. And during the motor vehicle inventory, Officer Haber was able to discover Class B drugs. This ended up being Suboxone, which is typically a drug that is used to assist people that are addicted to opiates. Suboxone, buprenorphine, difficult word to say, but they had this drug in the car. It's a prescription narcotic. There was no prescription for it, so as a result, Officer Haber decided to charge this person with possession of Class B, and that's pretty much it. So that is it for the log. There's one thing that I just wanted to mention, back to the marijuana issue again. This just happened right before we started to air, but there was an individual today here in Walpole, I won't say where, and it was not at a school or anything, but just to make that clear. But an individual had to be transported to the hospital. That was the result of the individual, a youth, who had consumed THC-laced cookie. And this is just, I'm just going to hold this up, and just so our viewers can see it. Hopefully that I don't drop that and break it up. But as I'm looking at this, it's broken up into different pieces, which typically what that means to me is that these are serving sizes. Whatever packaging this had come in previously probably broke this up into certain serving sizes. And as I've mentioned before, a cookie, a THC cookie can typically be anywhere from 4 servings. I've seen them as high as 16 servings, where you have 160 milligrams of THC in one cookie, which is equivalent to the which is equivalent to 16 servings. And this has always been my fear, is that this stuff is now becoming the trend. These edibles, these THC oils, we know that's already out there in Walpole, and as a result, there's already been some kids that have had to be transported to the hospital, and it's very unfortunate. I really wish we didn't do this, we didn't legalize this drug. It is important to note that you still can't distribute it. You certainly can't distribute it to our youth, and we will continue this investigation to see if we can determine who distributed it. And I can assure you that here in Walpole, that we will take this seriously. And if you do distribute drugs to youth, we can expect somebody to be arrested for that and to be charged with it, because the law does not allow for that to happen. So that's all I have for today. And thank you very much. Welcome to another episode of Walpole Five-0, and go Pats. Thank you.